And it is so exciting to go someplace now, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and be able to have a heart to heart conversation with the audience, with the guests here, and come out of it smarter, happier, and more enthused for the rest of the day. Today is Raising Capital event. When Carl's on, it's Raising Capital event. And that's because that's what Carl's most focused on. Chat's open. We really depend on chat to make this as worthwhile as possible to the audience. And we'd love to be able to bring some takeaways or share some takeaways that you could take with you that justify your continued support of the show, which is just great. I see Carrie must have been here. Good morning, Donna Carl. Glad to be here. Nice to have you. Nice to see chat works. And with that, I'll turn it. And by the way, we had a gentleman who was supposed to be here, and there was a medical situation last night. So he's going to reschedule. And, so happy to have Carl here today. So, Carl, why don't you bring all these wonderful individuals in our community up to date?
Sure. So, as Don was describing, I'm all about raising capital. My primary focus is in small businesses, where I work with startups who are just getting out of the gate. But my better fun, I guess I call it, is I like companies that are ready to level up. They've been around for 2-3 years. They've kind of figured out what works, and now they want to scale. And when they want to scale, they need more resources than what they have. And quite usually, they've already exhausted all their friends and family. So they need to reach out to people they don't know. And that is a combination of art and skill and just hard work to try to work all that out. So I like Don said, I'm now putting on my own show because Don has been mentoring me. It's called Successful Funding, and we just had it yesterday. So it's fun to be in the guest seat today instead of the driver's seat like I was yesterday, because Don's now in charge, and all I got to do is sit here and answer questions or respond to Don, which is easier on the stress levels. But if you have any questions, please post them up in the chat room. Happy to look at almost anything because my work spans any organization, charities, government programs, community projects, any form of capital, not just cash, but people, equipment, real estate, whatever it takes to get the resources in the hands of the people who are doing good in our communities. And by community there, I usually refer to a geographic area. But with the internet, anybody can have a community that stretches around the world. And also now working with a few international projects, which are crossing borders. So life is very interesting at the moment, and I'm almost starting to have fun. So good for me.
Well, that's great. And it's always nice to have people who are almost having fun here over the people who aren't having any fun. So, then it also offers hope for the future because you're not at your peak of fun yet. And what I'm starting to understand, and maybe it's a slow learning process, is that we're already sitting on the gold mine. The question is, what are we using to dig with? Is it a stick, a shovel, a bulldozer, or a whole business model that really takes full benefit instead of just enough? And what I'm seeing is strategy, collaboration. I mean, it is like a moonshot to some people if they can achieve it. And with a team, everything goes faster, but it becomes more fun and it keeps you in the game longer. So just, an insight. Beverly's here every Tuesday with the Women's Empowerment Hour. And that's another feature that we're starting to personalize and theme shows relative to the guests. So if someone's into that, then that's that. There's no reason to do filtering twice. And if someone has a priority, like I know Khan actually, and I don't know if everybody knows Khan, but he's in our group. He's going to start next Friday for the next 4 Fridays, and he's launching a book. And that's the reason he wants to give it kind of the full court press. So, these things can be tactical in a sense that you just want one focus. You don't want to be a generalist when in reality, you're a specialist. And the more niche you can get, the more relevant and aligned the audience will be. And less is more if less does more. So, like I say, Beverly's here. I see Beverly's been getting a lot of benefit from networking. Just being on a show with somebody gives you an experience with somebody that you can build on, and if it's just reaching out, making a connection, having a call, that's nice, but it's not an experience that you remember or you want to duplicate anytime soon. So, Carl, how do you put all these pieces that I've just shared together in a cogent way, I guess, for everybody to have at least some low-hanging fruit?
Yeah, it really gets down to planning. We talk about it all the time, but quite often as a small business person, an entrepreneur, we tend to wing it, all too often. We become reactive to what's happening in the moment. And unfortunately, that's rarely the most efficient way to go forward. And efficiency is heart and soul of what I try to build into capital campaign planning, because the entrepreneur has a very limited amount of time. In fact, raising capital is a complete distraction away from their primary business. And my goal is to get them back to work on their primary business and not be working on raising capital all the time. And so by planning going forward, and this is all best practices, there's all kinds of information out there that start with the goal in mind, work your way backwards to where you're at today, try to pick the best path to get you going forward. But along this path, a common error, and I call it a entrepreneurial genetic defect, is that we try to do it all ourselves. We invariably go, I need to get it done. I'm late. I got to get going. So I'm going to try to do it myself. And that is not the best route. There are experts out there. And Don here is a perfect example. I decided I wanted to do a LinkedIn live show. I've been doing podcasting, and I just didn't feel I had any rapport with an audience. I didn't know who I was talking to, who was listening to me, and I certainly wasn't getting any feedback of any consequence. So I wanted to shift over to LinkedIn Live, where the audience can tell me in the moment, what's on their mind, and I can react to that immediately. And so I reached out to Don because Don's been doing this for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of shows. So anytime you do anything the first time, we call it first off experience. And it's a learning curve, which has a little pain. A lot of patience is required, but you need to get up to speed before you get good at it. And we've had Leslie talk about the mindset that you gain from confidence by doing something over and over again until you get good at it, till you master it. And Don's done that. And so instead of me having to go through a very long, painful process, we've shortened it. I'm not sure the pain's all over yet, but I am up and I'm running my show, and I'm very happy with the way it's going. Even though I've only done 3 shows, I feel like I'm catching up with Don's 100th show. And a few more episodes, maybe I'll feel like his 300th or 400th show, where everything just kind of happens and we deal with all the issues, whether a speaker or a guest can't show up or the AV is goofing around again. We just work through that, and here we are today. So planning is good, but planning with people who support you, who can be experts and help you go faster and more efficiently is critical to getting where you want to go. Because at the end of the day, you can't do it all. You can't know it all. You can't be the general store in a rural community that sells everything to everybody. Yeah, you have to get more specialized if you're going to participate in the modern world, as I call it. And so I recommend you reach out. And one of the other points is Beverly was on the line. Beverly works with people, women in particular, on helping go forward. So I listened to her show yesterday. I try to listen to everybody's show who's in our group because I'm learning stuff. And yesterday she was talking the difference between therapy and coaching. And I thought that was a very interesting thing because I'm a coach. I view myself as the capital coach, and I'm trying to help people get better. I'm not really focused on trying to get people to fix something that's broken, although that's on my table all the time, where they think they know everything about raising capital and some of it's wrong or it's all wrong. But it's good to watch all these different shows because everybody's bringing expertise to the table. Kelly's working with her awesome journey. Harvey Tuck is talking about franchising. And Don is trying to recruit as many people as possible to get their own shows with their own specialties. So sooner or later, we should have essentially an expanse of all these different specialties. And if you need to learn something, you need to find somebody, you can easily go to one of these people, and either they or their guest can bring that special knowledge to your business and help move it along.
Yeah, I mean, I just love what you're saying, Carl, because first of all, it's happening in real time. In just 3 weeks of shows and just a couple months together, it's a puzzle. And one thing I'll say is I might have 600 and whatever shows, but the next show is based on the best practices that have been learned during that time. So a person coming in tomorrow is going to have a shorter, easier learning curve, a more dynamic collaboration group that's already in place, and an audience that is safe and supportive. So it's really easier to launch something where all you have to do is be there, and knowing the people you're with don't want it to be a bad experience for you. And plus, since there's no responsibility except showing up, no one's prepared, no one gets questions in advance, then it's just you. And the question is, who are you? How do you bring value? So if you don't have a good you, nice personality, someone who's helpful, service oriented, someone who has something interesting, unique, special that could help a lot of people, that should be the qualification. It's not time for money. It's not pay for play. It's really value creation that can lend itself to community creation that lifts everybody. Because once you start 20 or 30 every show watching you, it's a show. You don't need 200, but you definitely don't want two. And you want relevancy. So the idea is refinement. Again, getting back to mining, it's finding a niche and refining it, not finding a niche and adding another niche once you're into it. And not only that, but the playing field changes every day with the rules, with what's being rewarded, what's being punished. Everything you do has an impact on your score. And you get minuses and you don't even know it. If you go over 5 hashtags, it's a minus. And people think, well, 5 is good, 20 is good. Well, no, you're going to wipe yourself out. And you got to ask yourself, here's another measure. If your likes are so far ahead of your comments, no one's really seeing your stuff or caring. So you need a balance there. But one more thing I think that Carl brought up is when I'm thinking about this, LinkedIn by itself is a whole learning curve. Live streaming by itself is a whole learning curve. If this can be transformational, and it has, ask Kelly, ask Harvey, ask Beverly, ask anybody who's done it, and only done it for a few months together. What's a year of this or 2 years compounded by the association, by the strategic networking, the contacts you make directly and indirectly? Everybody here who's serious needs a program, needs a coach, because if you're not, you're going off with wrong provisions, and you better adjust your goal, expectation, and reason for being here. So Carl, what could you add to that?
Well, it was interesting because it is a learning experience, and even 3 shows in of my own, but I've been on Don's show, I think 5 or 6 times now. Don has his crowd, and this is a fundamental thing in raising capital, but it's in selling product or being successful in a small business, is you have a group of people who you influence because of their relationship with you. They may like your product, they may want to sell you their products, whatever it happens to be, but you have this relationship. And that network is only so big. And so this morning, for this show of Don's, I was able for the first time to start pointing my network to Don's network. And it's almost like I can hear bodies colliding in a hallway outside, because there's people coming onto this show who would not ordinarily be here because they're in my crowd. And the combination now is that my network is geometrically expanded. I'm not just talking to my people, I'm talking to Don's people. And some of Don's people are going to love me, and they may come over to my crowd and become also part of my crowd over time. And that's what I call building your network by borrowing everybody else's crowd. You have to pay it forward. You have to give value. You have to do all these things for there to be a relationship and for them to do that. But if you go out one at a time, and I was invited to a business meeting this morning, which I declined because I was going to be on the show, and they're expecting 30 people. I would have met 30 people, maybe because I wasn't a speaker, I was going to be walking around bumping into people. Maybe I met 3 or 4. But by being on Don's show, where Don has millions and millions of people in his crowd, and marrying them with my crowd's going to get bigger, quicker, faster, more efficiently. And I keep using the term efficient. I probably will overdo it, but I, like every entrepreneur I know, has not enough time in my day. And anytime I can get 4 things done in the same time I would have done one by myself, I'm going to give myself my own gold star.
Well, I think that's so insightful in a real go to action way, because I'm in agreement. Everything is efficiency, especially if you plan on using duplication and scale, right? If it's just you doing one thing every day, getting real efficient isn't going to make a difference too much, because it's you doing one thing a day. But if what you do duplicates through 100 others, those little inefficiencies get expanded and they become challenging. So why not squeeze it out? I'd rather get better and then bigger than bigger and try to get better, because it's like fixing a car that's running. And in the beginning, you can play with things and you're not playing with live ammunition. You're testing, you're sharing, you're learning. And when you go to market, you can't have second thoughts about the value of your product or your product. The only doubt you should have is, can I reach my audience in the most cost and time efficient way? And in this business, it is time efficiency. And because people aren't getting enough out of their time, they're not investing any of their money. So what could fix it is not getting done, because it's like, well, it's not working. And why would I want to throw good money and good time after bad? Then why are you here? Then is the question. So you don't have to fix anything. You can go on to something or somewhere or someone else. But if you're here, why not make it work if it's possible? And if you can find out in a month or 2 if you're the person and that's the process you need to apply, because everything is systematic. Everything has to be strategic, or you just get lucky, and you can't use luck as a duplicating factor. So, what I'd advise is I'm always more careful about time than money, because money's a currency. It's an amount. It goes up and down, but time is valuable, and what you do with it and how you invest in it. Because put it this way, if you won't invest in what you have, why would anybody else? And why do you have something that's not investable when you could switch tomorrow by getting help. Coaches need help. You can't sell what you don't buy, and you don't buy what you don't use. So I think, well, Beverly makes a good point, which is Carl's point. Yes, Carl, and every message we give generalizes to whatever you need. Every program gives value. Tuesdays, it's women's empowerment, but it's not exclusive. And the key is with 1 billion people, one would be kind of crazy not to niche, not to put a sign on their door saying pizza, right? Versus food, and you're saving everybody a lot of trouble because you're directing them away from what you don't see in alignment, and they shouldn't. Most people feel if they can fog a mirror, there's a chance you can sell them, right? If you can get them in a room, but what I learned about relationship sales is if you sell them to bring them in, you got to sell them to keep them in. And that's just way too much selling. If it's purely buy a car, never see you again, then hey, that's not justifiable to be just self-interested. But that's at least everybody knows what the situation is. So I think a lot of times, especially the new people I'm talking to who want to be on the show for the first time, is they need to prioritize and organize what they're doing and what they want to do. Most people, it's like, I'll just add that, and pretty soon you got a bunch of add-ons and the foundation won't support it, or you're starting to give mixed messages because this is ultimately a communication vehicle. Clarity, consistency, frequency, it has nothing to do with the message. It has to do with the delivery and the ability to receive it. Then the message is basically doing it. And that's one more flaw. I see so many talkers. Then there's so many thinkers. And there's so few doers. And when they do something, they do it like in a one-off way, and then they say it doesn't work. And what I learned, it only works when you work it well and you keep working it. There is no lottery ticket here, but there is a pot of gold. And no one can question, does LinkedIn work? Because I'm sure you could find 100 people that have made lots of money, helped lots of people by working it the right way instead of the fast way or the shortcut way. And LinkedIn sees everything you do. You can't hide, and you shouldn't want to. Another thing is, what I realize, people who take shortcuts, they're not going to be very good over time. So if someone says, I cheated on a post and I got 1 million views, well, tomorrow you're going to go back to 20 views. And you're not guaranteed you're going to get the 1 million, but you're guaranteed you're going to be marked up for it. And no, you don't want that, because if this has a huge future, why would there's enough things you get into with you didn't even know what you got into, or with people you get into. But it shouldn't be purposeful that, hey, I'm going to, get into this group and everybody's going to like my stuff and I'm going to like theirs and everybody's number is going to go up. That's a game you're playing with them. LinkedIn sees it. If you have an engagement group and 100 people comment on something, what LinkedIn sees, oh, that's wonderful. But if no one comments beyond that, that's not wonderful. So, if you have 30 comments and all of a sudden it grows, it had to be viral. It had to have value. And LinkedIn only wants the best value of content for people's time. And that's why they're looking for relevancy. So, Carl, a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it's something that you've talked about on your show a lot, and I think it's very important from my standpoint in raising capital, which is the ability to be distinctive, to stand out. This is a topic that has come up on a variety of shows where the biggest problem that most entrepreneurs have in raising capital is that the investors don't even know they exist. I mean, it's like they have the radar on looking for deals and they're not showing up on the radar. They're in a stealth mode, not intentionally. It's just because they haven't taken the necessary action to put themselves in a place where they can be seen. Now, some businesses try the shortcut you're mentioning where they make themselves seen, but they do it as a stunt, or they do it in a, like some weird act, or pitch, at a pitch event. And they're seen momentarily and then they're gone. They're off the stage and the next thing shows up, the next entertainment for the pitch competition shows up, and the investor immediately forgets who was on stage before because they're watching whoever's on stage today. The relationship building is critical. And if you think from the standpoint, there's 8 billion people on the planet. I think there's somewhere 460 million small businesses around the world is one estimate that's out there. Every one of you small businesses is competing with every other small business when it comes for funding or resources. And when you start that kind of competition, you're going, well, one, I have to be visible. Well, if you do something like LinkedIn Live, as Don is teaching me, this is clearly part of my strategy to make myself visible. So that's part one. But to stand out, you also have to be distinctive. I have to look different from somebody else. So if I did one more show on a topic that 200 other people are doing the same topic, I'm not achieving what I need to do. I may become visible, but I'm still competing with too many people. And entrepreneurs legitimately fear that if they narrow their market too much, their niche gets too narrow, there won't be enough people out there to do what they need to do. But my rule of thumb in raising money from investors is I only need enough investors to achieve my current capital goal. I don't need everybody. I don't have to be promising everybody everything everywhere all the time in order to be successful. I just need to have a certain group who says, yes, Carl's can bring, or my client can bring some to the table that I need right now. And that's all they're checking their box. And as soon as all the boxes are checked, we're done with that capital campaign and we can get back to business. So niching is a form of being distinctive. And within that niche, you want to be the best you can be. But I have many times felt that, I'm in a closet where nobody can see me being the best I can be, but nobody knows I exist. So there has to be a mechanism in your strategy to make yourself visible. I'm doing a newsletter with Don's assistance and advice, which was up to 574 subscribers since December 1st. I'm getting thousands of impressions. I went over 5,000 impressions a few weeks ago with everything I'm doing. And so I am now getting visible. But my show, my content, my appearance here today, and appearance on other podcasts and events like this, I feel I need to put on my coach's hat. I need to share some information, some value. And no, I'm not getting paid for that. This is basically promotional time, and it's not paid time. But this is how I'm trying to show people that I do care about small businesses. I want them all to succeed and need for them to be able to raise capital as efficiently as possible because they're in this competitive environment. And I'm hopeful that this combination of being seen and giving value will do what I need to do. And I'm comfortable that it will. I'm already seeing very positive responses from both people I already knew and people that are new to me who are becoming aware that I'm out there. And then after that, I just have to convince them that I'm the best choice at the moment for what they're trying to do.
Well, I think when things change, it kind of changes everything along with it. And most people are coming from a world where they have more supply and capacity than demand, and can create a little bit more supply and capacity with demand. So what I see is a transformational adjustment where now capacity is already reached based on demand. The question then becomes qualifying those who have the best chance of success, who you would really enjoy working with, even if you weren't making money off of it. And you can bring even more value based on your ability to have a show, showcase them, do strategic inviting through the show to them. And all of a sudden, the business model is the medium, and then how it impacts every part of the business. Versus here's a business, attach a live stream to it. Well, the business wasn't built on live streaming. The business was built on print or broadcast or Google ads or whatever it was. And everything has its time and everything has its place. But what I've seen over 40 years of business myself is the compression of time to process. So, when you looked at retail, department stores were around for over 100 years. And then discount stores showed up and they were around. And then specialty stores showed up and category killers showed up and all these other things. And now Amazon shows up, changes everything. And then everybody starts changing with it. So the point is, what worked before and used to work for a longer period of time before you had to change it out isn't working as well. And it's like musical chairs with less chairs and faster music. So if you can grab a chair, you're in a great place. But when you used to expect a chair and it's no longer there, you either have to rise up or fall down and climb back up. So I think the dynamics of the marketplace have changed in so many ways that if you don't have a competitive edge, you're out of luck, because then you're in the mob screaming over people, trying to come up with some scammy type of sales approach, and that's not a life one should want to live when they can move towards sharing what someone else has created, but no one's integrated because it's video. I mean, yesterday we were talking, the reason why most people don't progress is fear. And most of the fears have no foundation, except it's something that's been looped around enough to say, I'm not a good speaker, or I'm not good with technology. And you probably aren't. And both of those reasons are good reasons not to do something. But the key is, if you see someone or see an opportunity where all you have to do is be you, and you can follow instructions, and you can get better with time, that's the ticket to the promised land. So it's not so much how much time you're doing with this, it's the time you're not doing with that you really want to spend the time with, which is your business, which is your core competency. And marketing should be just something that you do and it does well for you. So Carl, I see a lot of this having application to a lot of your future clients as well as present clients. How do you plan on integrating something like this to give them a boost?
Well, we've talked about it on this show a lot, the term community, and it's something everybody in this cohort. I'm part of a group of students that are being tutelaged by Don with the help of Kelly Steinecke and Harvey Tuck. And they are sharing what they know about using LinkedIn Live. Now, obviously, the way Don, Kelly, and Harvey do their shows is going to be a little or a great different, depends upon some element of the show, but I'm learning from them and I'm looking to them as experts in what they do and how they conduct their show. There was a nursery rhyme about the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker, which kind of represented the businesses on Main Street in a small community. Well, today you may need 20 people instead of 3 people, or it may more accurately, you may need 100 people with 100 specialties in order to do your business best. And these people all can be part of your community. Where it's not where I have to go online and do a digital search for hours to try to find them. I've already found them. We've already built our relationship, and they are in effect a standby on-call basis. So if I need them, I know immediately who I can reach out to. I can trust that they're going to do what they say they're going to do. And that just means I'm moving forward faster. and that speed allows me to be competitive in everything that I do. What I've seen a lot, and as you were talking about, a small business starts where they have more time than they can use. And then as they get more successful, that collapses because they have more customers. And finally, they reach a point where all the time they have is being consumed by their customers, but they still want to grow. Well, they can't grow using the old model because they've already capped out on that. That's done. So you have to come up with a new model, which means more people, allocation responsibility internally, or outsourcing them to contractors in order to have a larger group. But even at that point, that's still your inner circle. Your community is an even broader group of supporters who you've met, validated, you like them, you enjoy working with them. It makes your day ever so much easier knowing that in any direction you go, there's lots and lots of people who know you and trust you, and you in turn trust them. So you can get something done without, because you're already doing enough stuff new every day. Setting up new relationships is its own form of innovation and learning and potential pain and suffering if the relationship doesn't work. Having that huge community is an asset that, in my mind, is becoming the most valuable asset any small business can have today. Because within that group, you can find any skill you need. You may get an introduction to anyone you know. You may have all your customers who should also be part of your community. And the bigger it is, the more you can grow. That puts you in a position to win whatever battle you're fighting, and also to meet whatever definition of success you've set for yourself.
Ain't that the truth? You know, I think you bring so many good points to the table, and it's the nuances just by association. Just like you mentioned, you invited people from your community here. I sent 112 invites out last night because of LinkedIn's ability to just go through your connection list. And what was cool is, because this is capital raising, I only reached out to financial people in my connections. When it's women's empowerment, now I'm working with a subset of my audience. So it's not like let it fly, everything's equal. It's really modeling so you get as close to something as you can that's relatable to that something. Because first of all, nobody wants to get an invitation to something they have no interest in, right? If you're about excavation and you're sending it to beauty parlors, right, or cosmetic people, it's not gonna. It's like, first of all, you didn't learn, you didn't do any homework before you sent this out, or no one even looked at who I was when you could have unclicked it, because you have the ability to really connect or invite 50 at a time. If you press one button, it'll light everything up. You hit the button. So if you really just want to hit and run, you could do it in about 4 minutes. If you want to do it right, you could do it in about 6 minutes, right? So you know, at a certain point, you got to ask yourself, who's fooling who? And how you do things reflects on who you are, right? It's just like, hey, pretty sloppy. They didn't fix their punctuation. They didn't go over their spelling. Maybe just someone in a hurry, someone didn't care. Maybe that's something, but it also says, well, if they're sloppy here, maybe they're sloppy there. If they don't care about this, they don't care about that. And I think the other element is a sense of urgency, not perfection. You know, the idea is get more out there and learn faster from what you're getting back from the more out there. Then getting to one level of success, or, you know, it's not like an Oscar or an Emmy, you know, it's a show, it's a conversation. How many conversations do you have every day? Have no second thoughts. You go to a grocery store, you go to a club, you go to a organization you're part of. It's very free and easy. This is the same thing if you allow it to be. If you just say, hey, I am who I am. I'm always trying to get better. Hopefully you'll see an improved version in time. But, you know, you have to also stay curious, because what I learned is, how do you get to number one on events? It's very simple, but no one thinks of that and no one tries to figure it out. So they become potluck. And if you're not in the top 3 events, you're not seen. They have a button to say other events, and then 150 will show up. Well, how much is that worth knowing you can get number one by just getting a tip? It's not something that you have to go back every day and get the same tip to make it work. And I think those are the keys is, if there's something to be learned, why not get it all up front than to waste time and get frustrated, because the bigger opportunity is you'll quit. It's not that you're taking your time and one day you'll get there, or maybe you'll never get there, because what it takes to get there and be successful at it is not the formula you're working with. And I think everybody, and me and Kelly and Harvey are talking about it, is being able to do a review and audit, right? So just what's your LinkedIn strategy? Just what do you do? What don't you do every day? What's your live stream strategy? And hey, how much time are you investing in this? It's no different than a financial advisor. Let me see your portfolio, right? Let me see what you're putting in and what you're getting out, and what the risk is relative to the reward. And what if we put together a different portfolio that diversifies itself, makes it comfortable, and gives you a better chance of success with what's already known and applied? And that's the whole thing, is check it out. You go to an auto dealership and they give you a 20-point check, and you walk out and say, yeah, I need a muffler, I need something, blah, blah, blah. So, Carl, we're already 2/3 of the way in. We're really discovering stuff between ourselves that we'll learn from, which is great too, because you don't have to always depend on the audience to bring the people in the front of the room value. It's an opportunity to have a Zoom call in front of people in some ways and kind of share what you're doing, what you're thinking, what you might think could help somebody else think. I think this is just incredible.
I agree, Don. Before we got started, and this is why I was a guest on Don's show, because I wanted to experience the show as a guest, so I'd understand it from that perspective. But I also watched Don with other guests on his other shows, so I could better understand how to be the host of a show. And we all were in agreement that you can't really understand something until you try it. You can be outside and watching from the audience, and it all looks good, but to really understand it, you got to do it. So I pushed as hard as I could to get to the point to launch my first show. The learning curve has started, and I'm sucking in all this information, but it's just everything's getting better. And unlike other mediums that are out there, including podcasting or other things, this one is very simple. I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, this is a 1 compared to podcasting, which I would put it a 4 to a 6, or even more orchestrated shows like some of the TV stuff or internet channels that can be done, which may get into 8s or 9s. And it's way, way, way less expensive.
Well, Carl's back. I thought you wanted to switch sides for a second.
No, I don't have that control from here. The point I'm making is that if you're interested in doing LinkedIn Live to make yourself visible, it's a low barrier to get into it and do it. And by doing it, you'll come to better understand a lot of things we've been talking about today. And even though this is part of me making myself visible, and no, I'm not getting paid for being a guest on Don's show. He hasn't got enough sponsors yet to pay me the big fee to show up. The thing is that once the show is done, it's recorded. It goes into Don's post, and if I hit all the buttons right, it's going to go into my post as well. And it's going to stay there forever. So anyone who couldn't get on this particular time slot today can go look at it. Well, one of the other things I've been doing and talking with Don about is that there are new technologies. A lot of them are AI driven that allow us to take a show like this, which is called a long form video, LFV, and to slice and dice it down into little smaller things of 30 seconds to 1 minute in length, which are called short form videos. And with that, I can put those on my website, or I can put them in a promotional social media post, or I can add them to a presentation that I'm making at a startup week, or even as a podcast guest. I can go, here's a little clip that we can throw into this. And so I suddenly have a toolbox full of all these short pieces, which, and I will tell you, we're only picking the good pieces. So if I stumble or mutter or say something wrong, we're not going to use those. We're going to use the good ones that make me look like I really know what I'm talking about. And this gives you just, in today's marketplace, an ability to be like in 20 different places at the same time. It's like a simulcast of different levels and different sizes, all fitting different markets. And that's really helpful for you being visible to the people that you're trying to be seen by. So we're working on that. That's still more to the learning curve to come. But that's part of the longer term strategy is we're saying, well, we're going to invest in this program. We're going to share knowledge here, but we're also going to try to carve it up in ways where we can continue to share knowledge in a cascade that goes out potentially for weeks and months, maybe forever. Depends upon whether somebody comes along later who's smarter than we are.
Well, yeah, and all of this is happening. It's just not integrated with what we're doing. So AI is going to be here forever. When that's applied to something even as transformational as live streaming relative to what's used to be being done in that area, it adds even more value to it when you repurpose something. So if the raw material pays for itself plus when it's, let's say, gathered in, it has so much future value through repurposing. So everybody's goal that I've talked to wants to build residual income, wants to work today and keep getting paid tomorrow. And people can do that with a book, with a record, or whatever. So why not do it with part of your marketing strategy, which then becomes part of your monetizing strategy? And all of a sudden, if you have more, and the other thing people always want is multiple streams of income, right? So they're not all eggs in one basket. If you got money coming in from there and you lose something, you still got money coming in from there and there. So by being able to, I mean, I've got 700 hours or 700 programs on YouTube, and they're usually an hour or more. I guarantee you there's probably 10 books. There's probably so many shorts, so many playlists, and there's so many social media channels. And distribution and syndication is easier and easier. So in a sense, you can wait for technology to come to you because you've got the goods. Just like if you had all these recording records and stuff, that if the Beatles had 40 more things in the vault, how much would that be worth? And it keeps getting more and more all the time. So if you look ahead and you look at what this could mean, it does change the way you look at things, because most people look at this as a marketing expense instead of a professional and B2B opportunity. But that needs to be shared. It needs to be taught, and it needs to be learned. And I think because building communities, combining communities, making communities more of an amplified reach, right? Carl shares my stuff, I share his stuff. Two things happen. Both of our pies get bigger. But now it's almost like a referral, because if Carl's with me and people admire me, it's gonna rub off on Carl and vice versa. You know, because it's like, hey, how did he get there? Must be something. And all of a sudden, you ever see those movies where people in the movie leave the movie and come into the audience? I've seen that a few times. This is a case where you can go from the audience into the movie and become your own leading star of that movie, and you produce it and you cast it and you frame it. But that all happens with knowledge and best practices and what I'm advocating, and that's what I'm doing. I mean, I could choose anything to do with whatever we're doing here. There's so many avenues. And I just thought, take the easiest, simplest, and fastest is just duplicate what you're doing and bring people, have them experience it. And I guarantee you, there's so many more people that come on this show that are better than me in like so many things. And I celebrate that, because all I'm looking to do is give somebody booster rockets, right? And whatever's on the capsule is their thing, and whatever their destination, trajectory, speed is their thing. But it's nice to have a car knowing when you press the button, it's going to start, knowing when you hit the gas, it's going to move. So having a vehicle that you can get in with people, like be part of a racing team, not just get your own car and race it individually, but be part of a crew, a knowledge share. Everybody's looking out for each other because everybody's looking out for each other. And that's 7 times 7 times whatever you want to time it to. It's huge. And these are numbers. These are things that are proven. It's really, are you the kind of person that deserves somebody else's contribution? And are you fair? Do you pay your way? Is another way of doing it. Or do you say, because I got taken advantage here, I'm going to have to get it back somewhere? And you got to be able to separate that. Carl, you're that lit a fuse.
No, there are days as an entrepreneur where things don't go well. It's part of the roller coaster of running your own show. But looking in the rearview mirror and thinking of revenge, or thinking that the word fair somehow applies to what you should get or don't get, isn't going to do you any good. You have to constantly invest, and each investment, whether it's a phone call or appearing on this show or doing something else, has a potential payback. And part of what your strategy is trying to pick and choose those actions that you can control, you can influence, that have the highest payback to you. And collectively, you look for that synergistic complementary effect where showing up on Don's show is the best thing I can do right now, today, out of anything else that's on my calendar, in terms of making myself visible and give me a chance to talk to people and about funding and hopefully helping them see something that can help them be successful in their funding campaigns. So it is intentional, it is strategic, and it requires thinking and planning. And then at some point, you need to get people on your team to see it and give you feedback and make it into something better, and build your team and then build your community so that you have hundreds of people, as I call it, my little army in standby mode, ready to come to my aid whenever I need to do something else. But I have to maintain a relationship with every one of those. And that's a significant investment of my time, but I'm happy to do it because the rewards are huge. And it makes for a more fun day.
Well, I think plus it gives you purpose. It gives you something that could be something, knowing that what you have is kind of been had, and you can get benefit if you really work it well. But if you change what you do, how you do it, with who you do it with, and to Carl's point, Harvey's into franchising, right? Kelly's into helping service and first responders. Carl's into finance. Khan's into his book and really helping organizational leadership. Well, none of these butt heads, and even if they did, there's 1 billion people here. How much territory do you need? How many reservations of of everybody out there you want to own, and you haven't done anything to deserve it. And I think that's the key. What I learned is people want things, and naturally people need things. But usually what you deserve is what you're going to get, right? If you worked hard for it, if you did what was supposed to be done, then you have expectation that I earned it and I should receive it. And if you don't get that, then you have learned something that you thought was going to work and it didn't. And maybe it's just a minor adjustment. Something didn't jive or come together the right way. Beverly comes back with, excellent show, guys. Got to jump off. Have to get out there. And to your point, Carl, doing it together makes it a much more fun day. You know why? Because I believe in everybody I'm working with. They have talents. They have attributes that justify it. It's not just 10 people get together and row a boat. You know, it's like, who's going to make you faster? Who's going to make you smarter? Who's going to make you stronger? Who do you want to race with? You know, I want to run with the big dogs. You know, I want to get pushed. You know, I don't want to get where I lean back. I want to catch up, and I want to understand how they got so fast. And I think that could change everything. And, you know, hope is eternal if you can leverage it. The belief that you can do it somehow, some way, sometime, if you give yourself all three of those in the proper measure and you take care of yourself, you got to pace yourself, because you're not going to be around long enough if you don't. Either you're going to burn up and get so angry and frustrated, or you're going to fall apart, which is you didn't take enough time for self-care or for things that give you joy, right? I mean, family to me has always been first, always. I never went to work before I took my kids to elementary school every day, you know, and I could have got there at 7 or 7:30. But I'll tell you one thing, I can't replace those memories, and also who you're serving, I think, is so important. So with that said, you know, there's something to do in it and doing really well, whatever well is. But at the end of the day, it's how well do you feel about what you're doing, right? And I think pride, purpose, and serving others, right? I've done 600 of these. Never monetized a thing yet. Why? Well, because I have patience, and you know, I only want to do what's significant, what's going to be important, and then after that, the rewards always tend to follow. So, Carl, 57 minutes and 48 seconds into this, I guess we could make a two-person show go. Seems like we did it today, but I love the way we're having more, let's say, serious interaction where we're really talking about some of the detail that most people take for granted, or just one size fits all, or throw it against a wall, versus really thinking. And, you know, if people can adjust their time to planning and reviewing in relationship to acting, because Carl's right, at a certain point, you're the tiger that's getting chased by the tail, right? Instead of chasing the tiger by the tail, because the worst thing you can do is overwhelm yourself with too much business. And now quality control goes out the window. And now the ability to service it, but more importantly, the ability to build it methodically. And I think one more thing that Carl brought up is you got to be able to track to something, you know? So whatever it is, if you got a 5-year goal, it's got to be broken down into months, days, weeks, quarter, whatever it is. And just like whenever you see those races, and they always show you those foot races, they always show you world record, meet record, and then 1/4 into it, they show you plus or minus how many seconds, or the skiers, right? They're plus 2 seconds, pick up a second, lose a second. Well, if they can do it in seconds, you can definitely, for whatever activity you have, be able to track against something and then measure and then adjust. And I think it's always plan, do, review, plan, do, review. And you just continue to ratchet yourself up by improving on a more continuous, frequent basis. So last words, Carl. Carl's going to be back, by the way, on Friday with a new gentleman, an attorney who's into selling businesses or helping businesses sell business legally. His name is Pat Linden. So we'll talk about that. Tomorrow is Tara LaFon Gooch. And if you don't know Tara, she was my first guest ever. And we did Fridays for 5 months, every Friday, pretty much. And now she just finished her second TED Talk in England. She's just publishing her second book. She's everywhere. TikTok, Shorts, she's doing it. And so we're reuniting tomorrow. Glad to have her back. Glad to introduce you to her. And I think she'll get more involved in what we're doing here because of experience and the relationship we had in the past. So thank you all very much. Can't thank Carl enough. And now go out and take all this beautiful information and make the best life out of it that you can. Thank you. See you tomorrow if you can. Take care. Bye for now.